What's going on, guys, and welcome to a new video. So in the comment section of my last Whirlwind video, I had several people asking me about using Ramaladni's magnum opus and whether or not it would be a damage increase and if it would be better than a two-handed mace setup or not. So I went ahead and put this build together, and honestly, I must say our DPS pretty much has doubled. This build is able to do tier 8 hordes a lot quicker, and I've killed tier 8 council members in around 3 minutes or less, which is like half of the time of the other setup. On top of that, we drop Uber Lilith tormented bosses extremely quick now. So overall, it turns out this is a massive DPS increase, and it has made the build a lot better at farming tier 7 hordes. With this build, it's an absolute breeze now. A lot of the things in the build are the same, and at the same time, a lot of things have changed. So I would definitely suggest sticking around because I will cover everything in detail. Timestamps will be down below, so feel free to jump ahead at any time. There will be the final wave and boss kill of a tier 8 Infernal Horde at the end of the video, as well as a full Uber Lilith kill, so be sure to stick around if you want to check that out. Anyways, let's get right into it. When it comes to the skills, pretty much nothing has changed. Up top still Whirlwind, obviously, that's our bread and butter. The difference now though is that we're not using our two-handed mace, we are using our two-handed setup, or two one-handers, so you definitely want to set that to your dual wield when it comes to your Whirlwind. Right here we use Challenging Shout, defensive, Iron Skin still for defense, Rallying Cry, War Cry for a lot of damage and berserking, and then also we are going to take Call of the Ancients once again for a nice attack speed and damage bonus. As for the expertise, we're still going with the two-handed axe expertise. I still had people asking in the comments, so I'll go over it once again. Whatever you put into the technique slot right here, guys, as you can read right there below, rank 10 of 10, when using any weapon, you get the bonus. So you're going to get that 10% multiplier of damage to vulnerable enemies. So for those of you that may ask, anything that's in the technique slot you will get with all weapons. Alright guys, we will go ahead and jump into the gear and aspects on the build. Really quickly, I'll show you my stats. Just do a quick rundown. You can pause the video if you'd like to see them closer. Really quickly, where's it at? You see our critical strike chance is at 83.6%. Now, we get 8% also in the skill tree, so we're at actually about 92. And then if we use this elixir right here, that'll put us up to pretty much 98%. But you can use that, or you can use the resourcefulness elixir, which gives you more maximum resource, which you'll see in a minute turns into damage with this build. Or if you're feeling a little bit squishy, you know, we have 50k life without, but you can use the fortitude elixir right here, so it's all up to you. Starting off up top with the helmet, same thing. We're going with the shako, you know, has maximum resource, the armor that we need, life, cooldown, damage reduction skills, you know, awesome for the build. Tyrael's might, you know, try to masterwork the damage reduction if you can, if possible. Into our gloves, these are actually the same exact gloves from the other build. Nothing changed here. Maximum life, you want to get crit chance, try to get the greater affix on the crit chance if you can. We want to come to that 100% cap, or as close as possible as we can get to that. And then crit damage, and then for the tempering right there, barrier generation, critical strike damage. Now we're going to put the devilish aspect right here onto the gloves now. Before this was on the amulet, but we'll go over in a minute why we changed that. Right here, Tybalt's Will. Now we're not using regular pants anymore, we're using the Tybalt's Will for that 20% multiplier. Plus it gives us resource, damage reduction, just, you know, awesome all the way around, helps to boost our damage quite a bit. Into the boots, you want to get some fury per second. I would say at least get like the 5 per second like I have right there. Movement speed, and try to get ranks to War Cry or brawling skills if you can get that. War Cry is a brawling skill. Barrier generation and movement speed for your temperings. And then for the aspect right here on the boots, guys, we're going to go with the relentless berserker aspect. Now, we did drop the anger management aspect. We are no longer using that, but with this build, we have no issues whatsoever keeping our berserking up. With this aspect right here, I mean, I keep it up at all times. So anytime you're attacking enemies, your berserking's up. And we have such a quick cooldown with our War Cry. I mean, you know, it's up pretty much at all times too. So we have no problems keeping our berserking up at all times. Right here into the weapon, same as before, you want to go with strength, maximum life, fury on kill, chance for dust devils to cast twice. Now you want to get that as high as possible. I would say at least hit it twice with the masterworking. Really important. We want to try to get that to 100% or as close as possible, because I mean that's initially doubling our damage, you know, twice as many twisters that we're putting out. So we definitely want to, you know, at least masterwork that twice, 3 times if you can. And then critical strike damage down there as well. And then on the weapon right here, we're saying with the same aspect as before, the Dust Devils aspect, you definitely want to have that on your two-handed weapon. That's going to be our main damage when it comes to Dust Devils. All right, into our weapons right here. As you can see, we have a mace, and then we have our unique sword, the Rama sword. The reason that we're using the mace, as you can see right here in the skill tree, for Wallop. Your skills using bludgeoning weapons deal 15% multiplicative increased damage if the enemy is stunned or vulnerable, which we're making all enemies vulnerable at all times. So that's why we chose to use the mace in one hand and then the sword in the other. Now on the mace, you want to go with strength, maximum life, critical strike damage. It's going to be the same as before. Now really quickly with this build, guys, you want to try and get the greater affix of strength on all the gear pieces that we have strength on if possible. Okay, it's really important. If you can boost your strength up, you know, say over 2k or whatever, the higher you can get it, the more damage you're going to be dealing. So try to boost your strength up as high as possible. I'd say to try to at least get the greater affix of strength wherever that you can. Now, really important, now we're down to one single-handed weapon, and then we have two uniques over here, so we only have one spot to get the Dust Devil size on now. So it's really important that you at least masterwork that twice, if not 3 times. I mean, if I could hit that a 3rd time, that would be more multiplicative damage because of this aspect up here. You know, you see with the Fierce Winds aspect, your Dust Devils are 30% bigger and deal 1% multiplicative increased damage for each 1% their sizes increase. So we want to try to get the size up to 100%. That's the cap. So we want to get as close as possible. We got 30 right here, and I got 54 right here, so we got, you know, almost 85% in total. If we could level that up again, I mean, that's just raw damage that we'll be getting. So you definitely want to have that down here. Try to get the max roll or high roll as you can on it, and try to masterwork it as many times as possible. And then also the critical strike damage. Now, on the mace right here, we're going to go with the Edge Masters aspect. Skills deal up to 20% multiplicative increased damage based on your primary resource. Our resource with this build, we have no resource issues. It's topped off at all times, so we're getting that, you know, nice damage bonus at all times. And here's the bread and butter of what we changed in the build, obviously. The Rama sword, strength, resource. Now, as you can see down there, we get damage from our maximum resource, okay? Skills using this weapon deal up to 0.5 increased damage per point of fury. So for every 2 points of fury, we get a 1% multiplier, pretty much. You know, and if you see right here, when I use the Elixir of Resourcefulness, you know, I have 300 fury total. So, I mean, that's given us, you know, what, a 150% damage increase overall. So that's massive. That's why throwing this into the build actually worked out great. It's boosted our damage, you know, by a ton. So definitely want to have that. Now, I would say to try and masterwork the maximum resource on this. And if you can, try to get the greater affix on the maximum resource as well. And then real quick, guys, in your gear, get the rubies as before for life. Now, you can put, what is it? I think sapphires in for, you know, more 100 strength per one. Like you get like another 500 strength right here. But also your life's going to drop, you know, pretty dramatically. So I like to have a little bit of survivability opposed to a little bit more damage. So that's up to you if you want to put those over there. And then down here, guys, you know, you're going to go with the crit strike damage. And then over here, once again, just the skulls or whatever you want to put in there. We don't even, materials might, we don't need anything in there. And with the shako. So technically those could be empty. I just have them there. Now over to our other two-hander. You can see we have the grandfather. You know, there's just no replacement here. You want to have this for sure. Gives you a ton of damage, maximum resource, life, all stats. Just great for the build overall. Now, when you masterwork this, you want to try to hit the raw damage down there. You see I have 510%. If you can hit that 2 or 3 times, you're going to boost your damage quite a bit. I'd say at least try to hit it once, hit it on that first masterwork, and then if you get lucky, you'll hit like the maximum resource, which is obviously also damage for us as well because of the Rama sword. So now up top in the necklace, really quickly, there might be people in the comments that ask if I tried Lokrans. I did. Overall, it's less damage than the setup that we have right here, so I would not suggest going with this. And I even had one that's rolled good. You know, I got this on the market, you know, more maximum resource, the greater affix, and yeah, overall it just didn't feel good. So, you know, I would not suggest that. Back into the amulet though, try to get the greater affix of critical strike chance. Now, the lucky hit, that's like a dead mod. You know, I have this amulet in my stash. You want to try to go ranks of counter offensive. That's pretty much the only thing that's going to help us with this build. I mean, I guess you could get ranks to wall up on your amulet as well, but you know, try to get definitely the counter offensive. Try to hit that as many times as you can. I would say to at least try to hit your critical strike chance also once, because you know it's really important that we try to get as close to that 100% base crit chance as possible. That's going to be more overall damage for us. For the tempering, we're going to go with Warcry cooldown, damage while berserking. Really important. You want to get damage while berserking there and there. With our setup, that's going to make it to where we're close to that 300% for the maximum damage in our Paragon board. And then, so optimally, when it comes to the amulet, you'd want to have crit strike chance with the greater affix. ranks to counter offensive, and then in place of the lucky hit chance, I would say percent strength. You know, at base it's like 10.9, I think, or something like that when you have the greater affix. So you can get a lot of strength. Like right now, for me, if I had the greater affix of strength, I'd be getting like another 160 to 200%, or I'm sorry, 200 strength overall. So that would be awesome. So that's what I would get right there. And then for the aspect up here, we brought the Fierce Winds aspect now up to the amulet, so we can get closer, or I'm sorry, so we can get higher with our Dust Devil size, you know, with that, bringing it from 20 to 30% since it's on our amulet right here. And like we talked about earlier, that along with the Dust Devil size down here, we're at like 85%. So right here, same as before, Ring of Starless Skies. I would say to try to hit your critical strike chance as many times as you possibly can. That's going to help to hit our 100% at base. Right here, we want to go with the Bold Chieftain aspect. You know, critical strike chance. Definitely want to get that. Try to get the greater affix if you can. Strength. You know, and you see I don't even have strength or crit chance greater affix on this ring. I mean, there's a few different pieces that I'm missing the GA with, like the strength and crit chance. You know, and all these things are going to boost our damage. You get more strength everywhere, like we talked about. You get hit this multiple times on the damage. If you can hit, you know, the Dust Devil size right here 3 times. If you could hit the chance for Dust Devils to cast twice again right here, you can definitely boost your damage even more overall with this build. So aspect right here, Bold Chieftain's aspect. If you're doing bosses, I would say run the aspect of Inner Calm to 10% multiplier, you know, and you don't really need the Bold Chieftain aspect when you're doing bosses. You know, your cooldowns, it's not really going to matter when you're standing up against Lilith or the tormented bosses. Switch over to Inner Calm, and then, you know, anything else like in the pits or whatever else, use the Bold Chieftain aspect right here. All right, as for the skill tree, not a whole lot has changed, but a few things have. We'll go ahead and briefly go over it. Up top, throw points wherever. We don't use a basic skill. Right here, we're going to run Whirlwind. Now we're running Whirlwind all the way back to Furious, and the reason that we're doing that is because we want to make enemies bleed because of our Paragon board. We get damage reduction and a little bit of damage in our Paragon board against enemies that are bleeding. And with Furious Whirlwind, you know, 40% of the base damage is being, you know, placed as bleed damage against the enemies. So we run back. It's only 1 point to get bleed right here instead of the 2 points to get bleed down here. So we're actually saving a point, which is nice because, you know, we use 1 sword and 1 mace as our 2-handed weapons. Right here, we're going to go with Pressure Point. You want to get 2 points with that. And I just realized, guys, in the gear and aspects on the ring, I didn't talk about it, but we have the lucky hit chance to make enemies vulnerable on our 1 ring. You definitely want to get that. And then also right here, you got the Pressure Point. So this, along with our exploit glyph, which makes enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds when they're first hit, every 20 seconds, we're keeping vulnerable up against enemies at all times. Down into our defensive, just like before, we want to go with 3 into Imposing Presence. I think before we had Martial Vigor. We're no longer taking that. Rallying Cry, back to Tactical. Iron Skin still, back to Tactical. You know, I don't want to drop Iron Skin. I like having it. I don't like to die, you know, and Iron Skin helps out a lot with that. Challenging Shout, run that back to Tactical. Right here, we're going to go with War Cry, back to Power War Cry. 3 into Booming Voice for more duration on our shouts. Raid Leader right here for basically life regen when we use our shouts. Right here, 3 into Aggressive Resistance for damage reduction. And 3 into Prolific Fury, boosting our Fury generation. 3 into Pit Fighter for damage and damage reduction. 3 into Slaying Strike for damage against enemies that are injured. Right here, Weapon Mastery, we're also going to get Thick Skin 1 into that. 3 into Counter Offensive, nice damage boost right here. You know, we always have Fortify of at least half of our life, usually our full life. So down into our ultimate, once again, we're not going to run Wrath of the Berserker, still go with Call of the Ancients for the attack speed and damage bonus. Now we put 3 points into Wallop for a 15% multiplier. 3 into Tempered Fury, because of our sword, we want to get as much Fury as we can. Get 9 right here. 3 into Invigorating Fury, this is nice. This is constantly boosting our life up, almost like Life Leech, because we spend so much Fury with Whirlwind. And then just like before, we're going to go ahead and stick with Unconstrained for our key passive. Alright guys, we will go ahead and jump into the Paragon board really quickly. Like I say in all my videos, level up your glyphs. When you hit 15, you get the bigger radius. Go to 21, so you're getting the most out of them. Right here into the starter board. First glyph we're going to put in is Wrath. We want this for the obviously critical strike damage we get from it, but the additional bonus skills that critically strike generate 3 Fury. This is what also helps keep our Fury boosted up. Next board that we're going to come into is the Warbringer board. This is how we're going to keep our Fortify up right here. Going to run over here and get Core Reserve. We want to get this Maximum Fury over here. We want to get Maximum Fury now because obviously with the sword and the new setup, we want as much Fury as possible. Right here, we're going to put the Twister Glyph in. run down and get conditioned and raw power. The next board that we'll come into is going to be the Carnage board. In this board, we're going to go ahead and throw Ambidextrous. We're no longer using Might because we're not using our two-handed weapon anymore. We're using our two one-handers. Right here, we're going to get Enraged, grab Brash and Fierce. Over here, we're going to go into the Bone Break board. Make sure to grab Tenacity. Nice boost of life right here. In this board, we're going to throw Exploit. We definitely want to have this. Makes enemies vulnerable when they're first hit. We get a little bit of vulnerable damage. Right here, we're going to go into the Flawless Technique board. Now, right here, we get 8% crit chance. This is boosting us up to like 92% without the elixir. And that is always up at all times. Right here, we're going to get Wild Force. Over here, guys, we're going to come into the Blood Rage board. You see we're getting 29%, almost to 30% out of this. Right here, we'll go ahead and get Grit and Revel. Right here, we got the Martial Glyph, lowering our cooldowns. And then the final board that we're going to come into is the Decimator board. You can see right here we take Ire, obviously for the damage while berserking. Grab Arrogance and Demolish. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for the build. You know, the new setup is awesome. We're doing like twice as much damage. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If it has, don't forget to like and sub. Helps my channel grow and I'd really appreciate it. There will be gameplay right now at the end of the Tier 8 Final Wave bosses and full Uber Lilith kill if you want to check that out. Anyways, thanks for watching.
Ready yet.